Hey everybody, welcome to the third MuseScore tutorial. Today's tutorial focuses on multi-line stavs. In other words, stavs that contain more than one instrument, more than one voice, or possibly for pianists and instruments capable of playing counterpoint, like a guitar or such. Clarity for different voices that happen within the staff. So it gives you the ability to stack more parts in a smaller amount of space. This is particularly common in the world of Bach chorales. It's very common in vocal music in general. So really, today we'll focus very much on techniques that are going to be useful for all of our vocal majors. All right, why don't we switch over to MuseScore and get started. So over here, you have our Bach chorales. Now, hopefully you've downloaded these so that you have good access to them. If not, at least you can see them here, but know that they're right before the video on the very page you're seeing this video on. What we're looking at is we're looking at a soprano staff with alto also included. Soprano stems are pointing up, alto stems are pointing down. Below that, we're looking at a tenor staff that has stems pointing up and a bass staff, and bass included with stems pointing down. We do the stems that way to help visually organize the reader's thoughts. You can see, okay, I'm the stems up person, so I'm only going to read the upper line, and so on. We also notice a few other things. We're in the key of A, we're in common time, and we have a pickup measure. We also have lyrics. We're going to learn all of these skills today. All right, let's go into MuseScore, click a new score, and get started. So we need vocal parts. We need a soprano part. We also need an alto part, but it's on the same staff. So since this is about adding stavs, I'm going to leave it alone at just the one for now. We also need a bass clef staff that has tenor and bass. I've found it best to add a bass staff. So I have soprano, which is the upper one, and bass, which is the lower one. So that way I don't have to mess with clefs. It's not difficult to change a clef, but this will just save me one extra step down the road. Let's move to the next screen. We're in the key of A major. So I'm going to select A major from my key signature list. You could also think F sharp minor if you wanted, but it's the same key, so it'll work for our needs. I believe we're in A major. Yes, we are in A major, so no issues. We are in common time. We have no tempo marking indicated. And there is a pickup measure, which is very easily created from the beginning, simply by checking this box and then selecting the rhythmic value. Well, it's a quarter note, so the default is actually great. Doesn't really matter how many measures we have. I'm going to go ahead and just put 10 in for our needs. That'll give us enough to accomplish this entire piece. Now for the final project this week, you'll actually be entering the second chorale on this page. So as you work through this, note things like it's in the key of, well, let's see, I believe we're in, that's actually going to be tricky. No key signature, but it looks like we're actually in the key of D major. Regardless, no key is fine for our purposes, and then you'll enter the title and things like that for your project. All right, that's good enough for us. For the purposes of this tutorial, the long, complicated, hard to type out title really isn't necessary. All right, we've loaded our score. We got this weird random measure down there, but that's just because there's too many bars, etc. Let's take a look at what we have. We've got our treble and our bass clef, but we don't have the correct instruments in there. So the way we're going to deal with this is simply double click the title. We have this long instrument name. I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to add alto below it. Now they've done this weird abbreviation. If you want to mimic that, just simply edit the characters. Short instrument name, I'm not going to really worry about it, but if you look at our score, there isn't anything there. So for the purposes of accuracy, you can delete that. And now it'll look exactly the same. So we have no title on the second line. We have sopran and alt for the top one. It's weird to me that they would abbreviate it a single letter, but that's what they did. And then let's do the same process with bass, but this time we want to put the tenor above it. Oddly, they add periods after both of these, even though they aren't abbreviations. And again, there's no short instrument name. Apply, and we're good. Now we've matched very exactly. That's giving us the same basic notation. So to create layers, which is what we're going to call this, we need an upper voice and a lower voice, and we're going to do that through the use of either these buttons or the associated keyboard shortcuts. So you see on a Mac, we have Option Command 1. My understanding is we have Alt Control 1 would be the equivalent on PC. If it turns out it's different, PC users simply look at that little drop down and it'll tell you exactly what you need to use. We can do the shortcut or we can click the buttons. We'll only need 2 layers for our purpose. Layer 1 for the up stems, layer 2 for the down stems. But you can create multiple layers. The MuseScore is capable of supporting many, many more layers. I really don't see why you'd need more than a few, but you never know. creative users might come up with all sorts of interesting uses. All right, let's start entering our notes into layer 1, which is going to be the layer with the up stems. So this is going to be the same as we've done before. We've got our quarter note. We're in the key, so if I type a C, I automatically get a C sharp. I don't have to put any more thought into that. C, D, quarter note E. Oops, that didn't work. Quarter note E. And then we have C sharp A. And we have to suffer the terrible MIDI sound, but I guess it could be worse. And I'm just going to hurry through this line because it's nice and easy to enter. Hopefully from all the practice you're getting really good at this. If not, take your time, pause the video as needed to keep up. All right, and then we're on to the second line. We have our A, continuing on, C, B, C, A, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, A, and then we need another A, and we need a dotted quarter, and we need an eighth note, almost done. Fortunately for chorales, they're very short, so this process doesn't take very long. And our final A. All right, so we've entered the entire thing. And now we need to add a few things such as fermatas, slur markings, that kind of thing. Let's go ahead and do that now. So under breaths and pauses, that's where we find our fermata sign. So I'm just going to go through and add the fermata sign to each of these. And we have the B here. And we have the final A here. All right, now our fermatas are put in, and you'll notice that on our score, the fermatas are not attached to the lower notes, so our concern is really just mimicking this as best as possible. Okay, so we've got our first layer in, but of course the stems are pointing the wrong way. Oops, and I forgot my slurs. Let's take just a brief moment to add those too. Simply highlight the notes you want and hit S, and that links everything together. Okay, so for our second voice, we want to go to the same place. We still want to do note entry, so all of that's the same. But now we want to go to the stems down voice. Two ways to do this. We can click this button, and you'll notice it changes to green. That's the MuseScore color for voice 2. The other option, I'll escape out and hit N again. Back to my blue, oops, let's get rid of that. Back to my blue voice. I can hit Option Command 2. Oops, what is that? Okay, why are we not working here? Bear with me. Option Command 2, there we go. Now it's changed green. Or on PC, Alt Control 2 to swap to the other voice. I'm a big keyboard shortcuts guy, so normally that's the method, but it's not too much slower simply clicking the button. Now any notes I add are going to be in a second voice, and it automatically changes the stems to the direction they need to go through. So let's add that second voice now, and it'll go surprisingly fast, simply because all of the notes are really, really easy to get to. Fermata's already in place. We don't need to put any additional thought into it. E, D, quarter note C sharp, and then we need a half note F sharp. Because vocal parts tend to be very smooth, it's rare we have to make the octave adjustments we saw on the saxophone piece from the previous week. And why don't we just stop there for our needs for now, because I don't want to make this video too long and you're probably getting the idea. But you're obviously welcome to do the rest of it just as a challenge if you like. Okay, so now we've got the notes all in place all the way up to this next measure. We're not going to worry today about getting this measure on the correct line. That's for a formatting tutorial later, but otherwise we're doing pretty good. Let's get to the lyrics. Lyrics are very, very easy to enter in MuseScore, and MuseScore has greatly improved its lyrics features. If you're a user of MuseScore 3 or older, you'll find that this actually comes out formatting-wise really messy and clunky. Well, they've improved it a lot. Everything formats really nicely now, and it's unlikely you'll need to make any changes after you do your default entry. So to do this, simply click the note you want to associate the lyrics with, and then on Mac, it's Command L. On PC, it's Control L, and that'll bring up the lyrics entry tool. And now we just start entering lyrics. Every time you enter a word, hit spacebar to move on to the next character. The score makes it just a little clunky and confusing when you're looking at it, but we are seeing all of the correct characters in place. And we got our comma there. Spacebar keeps moving. Continue on. All right, let's see. And we need this little underscore marking. Now, technically, it's supposed to be a hyphen. In proper vocal music, it'd be a hyphen. So to do that, you simply type the dash, which is up close to the delete key on Mac. It's right next to the backspace key on PC. So I'm going to type a dash and the SU character. And oops, I didn't quite do that right. Let's back up. I'll show you what I mean. So I do want the dash, but we need that to go a little further. So we're going to add the dash, and then I'm going to go ahead and just hit the arrow key so that I'm on the correct note. I wanted to make sure I'm not on that eighth note. I'm actually on the quarter note after it. There. Now I've got it in the right place. All right, and you're seeing this is actually pretty easy to do. Probably the most likely mistake you're going to make is not putting a character under the correct note. So in the case of a vocal score, sometimes I have a pair of eighth notes, but I'm actually singing both notes on the same syllable. There's my hyphen key, and I need to go to the next character. All right, and we lost our hyphen there, so bear with me. You can tell that I'm better at this on Finale. There we go. You have to use the arrow key. If you hit space bar, it gets rid of your hyphen, which is not the effect we want. And I'll just go to that last thing with the semicolon ending. All right, and now we've got our lyrics in. Hopefully you saw that was actually quite easy. A little clunky for me because I'm most used to the Finale method, which is slightly different, so the keystrokes are different, messes with my head. Assuming you're already a MuseScore user, they haven't changed the entry method. They've just changed the beauty of it. It looks a lot cleaner and better. Now, for the tenor and bass, there's no change. It's very simple. You do exactly the same thing we just did, except with those lines. I'm going to do just a bit so that you can see what it looks like. When I come over here and hit N, note the color. It's blue. Also, we have the voice 1 indicated. So everything should look correct. Option up to get it in the right voice. And we have a bunch of E's in a row. And why is it red? Red usually means out of range, but for some reason, it might be looking at the bass voice. So I'm not going to worry about the out of range. It's probably looking at the bass voice. And in which case, that is way high for a bass. And a bunch of A's, and we'll type in the G sharp. And why don't we end on the A right after that for our needs? And that didn't, oops, I typed the wrong note there. You probably were way ahead of me and caught it. So we want G sharp, and then we want that on an A natural. Now, there's a G sharp indicated here because in the bass voice we have the natural. So when we enter the bass voice, let's check out MuseScore's default behavior. So I'm going to come back over here, hit my N for notes. I'm going to hit Option Command 2 to change layers. You could have hit the button up top, and we have a low A in the right spot. That is an intense MIDI sound. G sharp, A, F sharp. We need a G natural. There's my G natural. A, and then we have D, but it popped it up, so I'm going to pop it down. And A. The MIDI playback is cracking me up. And then we got a bunch of eighth notes. Why don't we just finish out with a bunch of eighth notes? F, E, D, E, F, G sharp. And I'll go ahead and throw in the last A for good measure. All right, you can see that MuseScore is even adding placeholder rests for the notes we haven't done yet. So this is really all there is to it. We have our vocal line. It's mimicking very much what's going on in this score. There are formatting options that would let you tighten this up so that it looks a little cleaner and more like this. For our purposes, it's not high priority. But that's really all there is to it. It lets you edit everything very quickly. It lets you enter everything very quickly. And using this voice option, we've very easily created the stems up, stems down features. Just one last thing to show you. Anytime you have something like a stems up feature or something, you're going to find that you can control things in properties. So if I go to properties over here while selecting something, I have the option to change the stem directions here. I can change the types of flags, and there's a lot of other visibility features and such that I can use to mess with notes. So if you're ever in a situation where something isn't going to work because of voices, or there's just an oddball moment, remember that properties feature. It gives you ways to edit things beyond the simple features like voices. It also has features for lyrics, hyphen styles, you know, the way a melismatic singing looks, the way, oh, I forget the names of the underscore phrase extensions, but like uns here. You know, you have ways to edit all of these. So hopefully this has been useful. It gives you a general idea of how all this stuff works. Now your task is to do number 2 here from start to finish. You're going to enter this full piece and you'll submit that as your project. As always, if you have any questions, let's see, let me switch this back over. As always, if you have any questions, please send me something through Canvas, through the inbox, or you can send me a direct email. I'll be happy to meet with you in the computer lab and we can work on this together, or I can simply answer your questions. Thanks, everybody. Good luck with the tutorial, and I hope everything went well for you.